very first top 8 match here between Twinless Twins and the King. And now we will hopefully have all the hand cams here if everybody listened. And we will also be starting all the top 8s at the same time and then jumping into them and try to catch as much action as we can. The one thing we don't want to do is stall the game in any way. So we want to just make sure these players are allowed to play their game.
Yeah, looks like the King on the play here for game number 1, Blood Crypt into Thoughtseize here. And we'll get a look at what's going to be discarded very shortly. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup. Corey, I want you to tell me, like, the early game, what should we expect from both sides in terms of early game development and the cards that we want to see in the key cards in the matchup, I suppose?
Yeah, I would say oh, wow. Is this Thoughtseize? Okay, no, it is at Twinless Twin. All right, so I believe this is the hand cam for the King, and it's kind of looking at all those cards. But the main kind of thing is for the King, you want to see those discard your cruelty, maybe be able to bring it back, Fable the Mirror Breaker, kind of everything that we have here for the King. And then Twinless Twin, this pretty traditional Is It Murktide plan. You want to play Ragavan, you want to back it up with counter spells and stuff like that. So maybe we're still waiting on the hand cam for Twinless.
Okay. Well, we can see a little bit from the Thoughtseize that's been revealed here as turn 2 is going to be Bitter Reunion. Corey, I want your opinion on this. The turn 1 Thoughtseize from the King opted to take Lightning Bolt instead of the Ragavan. How do you feel about that?
I feel good about it mostly because there was 2 Ragavans, so like it's kind of brutal to just take one of the redundant cards. But yeah, Lightning Bolt itself is not super good, besides the fact that, you know, Indomitable Creativity on the Fable token, I guess. So yeah, that was kind of strange to me as well there.
All right. Well, looks like we're going to get to turn 3 here, which means maybe Fable of the Mirror Breaker is going to get to do some work. Second copy of Indomitable Creativity is the pickup here. Things are coasting by here. Maybe this is the reason to take the Lightning Bolt, is to keep that Goblin token alive.
Yeah, and I mean, the Goblin token is a big deal. We'll see if Twinless drew a counter spell or something like that. That would be quite brutal for Fable here, but does have creativity ×2 plus Scalding Tarn. So yeah, this is a big deal, and I believe the King does still have dwarfs as well. Trying to do a dead dwarfs thing, but yeah, it didn't land. It didn't land.
The King of the Dwarves. I got you. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, that's why I have you here. You're the brains. You're the brains.
Now, what's really interesting too is the addition of Bitter Reunion. I would normally say Bitter Reunion for something like an Archon, just to, you know, get into play and get a hasty swing in as well. It's a big life swing, chunk of damage and stuff like that, as we see Fable of the Mirror Breaker get counterspelled, but also reserve the right to make your Goblin token hasty as well. So really good draw there from Twinless Twin, actually.
Yeah, no, Counterspell was great there, dealing with that. Now it is going to be available to just go Scalding Tarn and make a dwarf and then creativity it and just kind of go for it. And when you're at 5 life, there's no choice. Like, the King's going to have to go for it. Yeah, still pretty much having to go for it. I guess you do have kind of both of the, if you run down this and push the other one, I guess you have that on lockdown. So yeah, this isn't bad.
Okay. Yeah, what's notable is that the King is choosing to play a little bit more safely than otherwise, because, like you mentioned, there's 2 options. One, you know, get rid of the Ragavan here. You've got Fatal Push to hold up for the other one. The other is just, you know, all the way, go as hard as you can, fetch Dwarven Mind, make the token, Indomitable Creativity, risk it all. I suppose by doing the Ren and 6 line, you get to get a land next turn, and then Creativity plus activate Bitter Reunion for a massive life point gain.
That or Creativity for 2, where you can just have 2 Scalding Tarns, and then they need 2 removal spells or 1 counter spell.
Yeah.
Usually you see the Creativity for 2, but sometimes you don't want to put both tokens at risk, even though, you know, most of the time, especially from this deck, from Murktide, you still have to spend 2 removal spells on it.
And this is the exact scenario I also feel like Is It Murktide wants to be in, right? This is what I was talking about earlier, where you have all these cheap threats and enough disruption. Look at the King, already at 5 life. There's still a Murktide in hand to have to deal with. This is gonna be pretty tricky.
Okay, so end of second main phase 2, going for the dress down to just cycle. You know, there was an option, and I think this is what Max was really thinking about, is do I want to save dress down and just be able to let you have 2 Archons that don't have abilities? Or do I want to just just say that plan's no good and try to find a counter spell? And I would agree with Twinless Twin here. I don't think Dress Down would be enough. You still have to beat those 6/6s.
Wow, and this is actually terrifying. We know about the second Ragavan in the hand. Murktide is only being deployed, and there's still 2 mana left open. I'd be really scared.
Oh, Thoughtseize off the top was an insane draw. Now you're able to Thoughtseize, make sure there isn't a counter spell, and tick up Renin 6 to go get another Dwarven Mine or a mountain. Here's the problem. If there's a lightning bolt, you're just kind of dead.
Yeah, this is actually really terrifying. I guess you're probably dead to lightning bolt no matter what, so you just pretend like it's not there.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, you are just dead to lightning bolt no matter what. Because even if you just creativity now, yeah, basically I think you just have to go to 1 here. You start with the Thoughtseize. If the bolt's there, whatever, move on to the next game. If it's not, go to 1, Scalding Tarn, get another Dwarven Mine, creativity, Archon forces Murktide out of there. Then you go back up to 4 life, so you're out of bolt range. And then you have a 6/6 and a 1/1 dwarf up against Ragavan and 3 mystery cards. So that was a big draw. That's the line I think I would be going for, Anurag.
Yeah, and we can see it's pretty complicated here. King kind of in the tank here, trying to figure out, assess all the options, because this is likely the turn that will decide the outcome of this game. After this, it's just, going through the motions. And so, we'll see Thoughtseize now.
This is duh turn. Okay? And he's in duh tank, okay? We gotta make sure the King gets duh respect here.
Oh, wow. And check this out.
Was there. The counterspell was there. If you didn't top deck that, the game was over. But instead, now, I mean, an Archon's in play. Everything I was saying earlier is going to happen. And what a draw there from King.
Crazy
Impressive.
turn of events here, from like just being near death to now probably just in the can't lose portion of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, outside of the like expressive iteration into double bolt nonsense type draws,
Yeah.
Because even Unholy Heat is not live anymore. You discard one of those Ragavans, you can play Shredder, discard another card, but with only 2 types, yeah, it's pretty much the expressive iteration double bolt range here. Wow, what a draw.
Yeah. And then to back it up too, there's a second copy of Indomitable Creativity in the hand here for King. So that's going to be great to, should something go wrong, there's a backup plan.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe we saw from King there is 4 Archons. There's 1 already discarded. So there is only 3 Archons, to be fair. So this creativity only hitting 1 other copy, shucks. I guess you only get 1 more 6/6 that's unbeatable.
Could also give it haste with the Bitter Reunion in play too.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely can, and probably will. To just end this game next turn. So.
And so this is kind of interesting, Corey. Maybe tell me about like how. So really, very clearly, there are upsides and downsides to playing something like the Jund version versus the. Okay, yeah, we're gonna say King take the win here. Twinless Twin realizing no draws here to get me out of this situation. But yeah. We'll jump into sideboarding first. We'll come back to this topic a little bit later. But looking at the sideboard, there's a couple elementals, Fury and Subtlety, Seasoned Pyromancer and a Braid, Spell Pierce, Flusterstorm, Minor Misstep, Unlicensed Hearse, Blood Moon, and Engineered Explosives. Of these cards, what's the most exciting for you?
Spell Pierce, probably. Spell Pierce has been notoriously pretty much, an all-star against them because, well, if games look like this, where Murktide's trying to play that tempo game plan, that 1 mana disruption for a turn like we just saw is going to be ideal. Outside of that, probably Hearse, since this version has the persist element a lot more apparent. But normally, Hearse is not something you want here. And then the moon effects, Blood Moon is still shutting down Dwarven Mines. There is a little bit more red cards in this one, but I would think you still probably at least bring in 1 of the Blood Moons. But enough of this deck. Let's look at the fun deck here. Let's look at Jund Creativity as our kind of new deck that we haven't seen a lot of, and we'll see what we can bring in here.
Yeah, so Jund Creativity, the topic I was asking about earlier was like, that this is a 3-color build versus the more stock standard 5-color build that supports Leyline Binding. One of the cards that we saw was Bitter Reunion, and we'll get the deck list up on the screen shortly for you to see what exactly is in the sideboard for the Jund list. But, okay, perfect, yeah. So, let's see, there's an Emrakul, there's Hidetsugu Consumes All, 2 copies of Necromentia, Nature's Claim, Fatal Push, Fatal Summer. Yeah, it really is, right? Anything that you like from it?
You know, Veil is probably something you want from the Jun side, just being able to, force through hand disruption, and just be a complete blowout when they have stuff, but you don't want to overdo it on that kind of stuff. So I'm not entirely sure what all you want to bring in here, but popular play patterns are, just kind of bolt the 1/1. And then when Twinless Twin just plays land 2, you can't really just jam Ren. So you might just play a bit of reunion, something weak, and then on turn 3, you go Ren with Veil backup. Something like that is kind of how you put Twinless Twin and other Murktide decks on the back foot. So I'd be looking to do that. Also bring in the Fatal Push on the draw to kind of quote unquote pass the Regavan test. I think those would be the things I'd be looking for right away.
Makes sense. Yeah, I also sometimes feel like whenever I'm playing against a deck that has Veil of Summer, as we dive into the first post board game of the match, it's like always like the threat of the card that is also pretty terrifying here.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Absolutely.
Looking
And
at the
both
hands.
hand cams. Looking at the hands, we can see them both. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Spell Snare, Murktide Regent, Ledger Shredder, Mishra's Bauble, and a couple lands on one side, and then Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Thoughtseize on the other side. How do you feel about both of these hands?
I like both of them. Both very just okay. I would say both were just okay, nothing special, but that Ren and 6 off the top made this hand pretty special, where you can either take the Spell Snare and make sure your Ren resolves, or you can take the Ledger Shredder and stop that powerful play of Shredder into Bobble. That's tempting because of that, and just let your Ren get Spell Snared. I agree with that, and I think that was a really smart play.
All right, yeah, it's fascinating because I think I would have taken the Spell Snare there and been horribly wrong because I don't know, I haven't played Ren and 6 in a while. It's been banned in Legacy, and I like the brain chemicals, just planeswalkers. But
yes, absolutely. You mince and boo lover, you. Think if you could play both together in Legacy, would that just be your dream?
I've had to go to Vintage to try it out, so that's it's tough. It's tough out here.
Interesting.
But
funny.
This is pretty big here. So Unlicensed Hearse is going to be the top deck for the turn here, and we notice Ren and 6 was not deployed at all last turn. Knowing about the Spell Snare, no reason to give it value.
It's Fable time.
Yeah.
Here's the one nice thing, Anurag, though, is with Fable, when you see an Unlicensed Hearse on the other side, you give up the whole persist back Archon game plan. So drawing a persist there normally would be like, dang, that's terrible. But with Fable's Chapter 2, that's just the first card that's going to go to the graveyard, and you're pretty okay with it. So while Unlicensed Hearse does seem necessary, and I would agree with Max to bring it in, it's not that good against this deck when DeKing's version has such duality,
All right. Well, Fiery Island going to come into play and immediately cycle. If you're on the other side of the table, what sort of signals does that telegraph for DeKing?
That your hand is bad. That your hand is very bad. You do not want to just give up your 4th land unless you really don't have anything going. And DeKing knows about Island, Murktide, Spell Snare, so can pretty much assume those other 2 are lands or more situational counter spells. So I'd be looking to smell blood, especially with this Regavan token Regavan at home, excuse me. I'd be jamming.
Okay, yeah. And you know what they say, right? What's better than one Fable of the Mirror Breaker?
Tacos.
A cheese.
Right?
Oh, dang, we're on the same. Okay, very good. Awesome.
We both need lunch. It seems like. Yeah. I think there's catering being set up by Adrian. He's mailing us expensive food is what I heard. So we'll see if that's true.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, just confirmed some steaks en route. But second Fable, the Mirror Breaker, gonna come into play. And honestly, it just looks like DeKing is in the driver's seat here as the reflection coming in soon. And that reflection with 2 of them in play, that's pretty good too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this deck can win that kind of fair game plan where you just go with 2 reflections at end step and you're able to just copy them with every one of your mana and then just make it 2/2 for each one. Not common. Not super common. And on the other side of the battlefield, just the most sad sight ever. The old 3/3 Murktide. Just at that point, I think Twinless Twin had a big decision there. Be like, should I play this 3/3 Murktide or just shame scoop and save myself some face? I'm with the bold line of playing it, so gotta respect him.
It's fascinating too, because if there was just even one instant or sorcery, not even there, but like a little later, the unlicensers could like power up the Murktide region. And this is just tragic. Like nothing is going according to plan here.
And I mean, nothing is really going according to DeKing's plan. I mean, in air quotes here, because of course DeKing is dominating this game. But we've went through almost 20 cards, no creativity. You have the Veil set up to just completely end this game right now. If you found one, it's not there. So we're still playing Magic. And if Twinless Twin brought in any kind of EEs, I'm not sure if I remember seeing that in the list, to be honest. But then maybe we have a chance of getting back in.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, like, what needs to happen for Twinliston to actually draw out of this situation? What are the good draws?
Yeah, I'm checking right now. And yeah, there are 3 EEs. So EE is the start. Being able to blow up all these treasures, all these tokens is pretty good. It's just the problem here is, well, Twinless Twin's hand is terrible and cannot even trigger this shredder to be able to, cycle it away. So yeah, really, really unfortunate draw so far.
And I guess the other downside here is that even though Engineered Explosive sounds really good, these Reflection of Kiki-Jikis will still be left in play, and you can always creativity targeting those to get some hasty Archons or something.
Yeah, that's just putting out fire number 1. Then you got a backup fire to deal with. That is going to happen right here, because this whole reflection plan, the way it works, you can't just like do it now at sorcery speed. You have to wait till your opponent's end step. Reflections copies the summoning sick reflection, puts in a copy the summoning sick reflection. Do that over and over with each mana, and then you have a 2/2 that will start into your turn, since it doesn't get removed until the next end step.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that you can repeat this loop. It only costs 1 mana to repeat the loop. So this means that we could see upwards of, what is this, like 10? 5 + 5? I could do it. Yeah, that's like 20 points of power threatening the game next turn.
Yeah, 24, but you almost nailed it, because you got the original copies themselves.
Oh, true.
Yeah, and then I mean that's counting that the shamans and all that die as well. So I think
there's a reason I don't play Storm.
There you go. Yeah, I think Expressive has to find EE, which then has to find a Bolt. I think that's like the line.
Okay,
it's not there.
That's a Scalding Tarn.
That's a Scalding Tarn. That's one of the worst draws I've seen. And, that sucks when you get this far. We have all this build-up time from one day where Twinless Twin played excellent, got 8 wins. This was a 9-round tournament. Then you play one of these matches, and it's just, yeah, DeKing got lucky to get that Thoughtseize. Otherwise, that was going to be game 1 going to Twinless Twin. But you know what? That's why you put him in the deck, Anurag.
Yeah, and sometimes that is also just Magic, where you sometimes flood out a little bit, or the draws don't line up. And in these moments, it's always just like, all right, well, I did what I could. I played as best as possible. So we're not going to think about like the bad luck. We're going to take agency over what we can do. And props to DeKing for having a very punishing start. In Modern and just in any format in general, you want to always play a deck that can really push the pedal to the metal, punish your opponent for stumbling. It's exactly what we see here.
Yeah, powerful and proactive. Always something that I want to be doing in Modern. The blue-white control definitely works for some players. We see Raja Suleiman, one of the best blue-white players I've ever seen, absolutely crush it every single time. But those kind of decks are not, necessarily what I would recommend to new players that are looking to do some damage here in Modern Magic. I'd be looking for Murktide. I'd be looking for creativity decks. They're very good right now.
Yep, absolutely. So this is a demonstration of the quote-unquote loop here. So Reflection of Kiki-Jiki going to target another instance of Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. That's going to make a hasty Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, which is going to repeat the process. For each mana that we can spend, we get another 2/2. And yep, DeKing 3603 going to take the first match here in the top 8 of our Manatraders 10K.
Yeah. Super impressive stuff. So DeKing's going to be moving on. Maybe we can take a quick look at that bracket. I know we don't have it filled out yet, but we'll look to see where DeKing is heading from here. And then we're going to jump into just more